Hey everyone, tonight we're getting into today's story. Imagine waking up high in the Andes, where the wind speaks a language older than words, and the stones beneath your feet feel warmer than the air. It's not a dream, but it feels like one. Every morning smells of eucalyptus smoke and roasted maize. The village isn't on any map. You only found it because someone scratched a symbol on a rock 2 valleys over. A spiral, wide at the base, coiling upward like a sleeping snake. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. It motivates me to make more great topics for you. Now, lights out. Let's get started on tonight's journey of discovery. You shuffle out of your clay-walled shelter into the breath of the morning fog. Everything here is curved. The hills roll like frozen waves, and the paths snake between them, never straight. Even the stone homes are bent, like they were made by someone afraid of right angles. You've come to learn from the masters, the old stone carvers of this cloud-kissed ridge, but no one seems to call themselves that anymore. Instead, they mumble that the stones choose their shape, not the other way around. You thought it was poetic, until one evening you tapped the stone, and it rang like a bell. Your hands are calloused now. The weight of your chisel feels familiar, like an extension of your palm. Still, there's something you haven't grasped yet. Something they all whisper about, then go quiet. A name they won't say, a place they won't show. And always, that spiral. The wind sighs through the valley as you pass the old altar where wild orchids grow. There's no statue, just a smooth basin of stone filled with cold rain. She never needed an image, the elder once said, only a place to echo. You kneel there every morning, not quite praying, just listening. One day, you hear a name rise from the fog, a name not spoken in the village, not in years. You turn, and the mist parts just long enough for you to see a carved stone tucked under a shrub, one that hadn't been there the day before. The spiral is etched deep into its surface, and beneath it, a simple glyph. A human hand reaching up, palm open. You pick it up. It's warm, not just from the sun, it feels like breath. That night, the fire crackles unusually blue. An elder woman, her back bent like a question mark, sits beside you, humming something tuneless. You've touched it, she says without looking up. It's starting. You blink. What's starting? She shrugs, spits into the fire. The remembering, the dreaming, same thing. You can't sleep. The stars above were like dancers. The Southern Cross hangs low. Someone, or something, scratches softly at the outside wall. You open the door. No one is there. Just a single river pebble on the doorstep. A spiral drawn in ash on its surface. The next morning, the fog doesn't lift. The entire village stays wrapped in pale gray, as if the world forgot how to finish waking up. Your tools feel heavier. Your chest feels lighter. You walk in slow, steady loops. In one loop, you find yourself facing a structure you swear wasn't there before. It's a partial wall, crooked, freshly fallen stones scattered like teeth. But what's strange is the lichen on them, years old. You crouch beside the rubble. One of the blocks has a pattern chiseled faintly into its side. Not the usual angles of temple stones, but a graceful inward curve. A spiral again. That night, your dreams pull you underground. You walk blind through tunnels made of air. The walls breathe. You reach a central chamber and find a floor made of bones, fitted perfectly like mosaic tile. You don't scream. You kneel and listen to the humming. When you wake, your hands are dusty. One nail cracked and bleeding. You smell earth. And not just in your bed. There's dirt packed beneath your fingernails. You go to the collapsed wall again. And this time, someone's waiting. An old man with a chisel hanging from his belt and eyes like polished slate. Apprentice ran off. He grunts, pointing to the rubble. Said the stones spoke too loud. You tilt your head. They do that. He grins, no teeth. When they're afraid you've forgotten what they are. You help him lift one of the heavy blocks back into place. It doesn't quite fit. The old man mutters, wrong side of the dream. You're about to ask what that means when he straightens, looks at you hard. You saw it, didn't you? The inner path. You don't answer. He nods anyway. That night, you sit alone with your carving tools spread out before you. You light a single candle. The wax drips slow as honey. On a scrap of cloth, you begin to sketch from memory. Spiral. Stair. Hollow chamber. Arch. You pause. Your hand moves on its own. And just like that, you draw it. The temple that's haunted your dreams. Not just a building, but a being. A living thing made of echo and breath and curves and memory. The spiral that dreams itself into stone. Hey everyone, tonight we're getting into today's story. Imagine waking up high in the Andes, where the wind speaks a language older than words, and the stones beneath your feet feel warmer than the air. It's not a dream, but it feels like one. Every morning smells of eucalyptus smoke and roasted maize. The village isn't on any map. You only found it because someone scratched a symbol on a rock 2 valleys over. A spiral, wide at the base, coiling upward like a sleeping snake. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I'm doing here. It motivates me to make more great topics for you. Now, lights out. Let's get started on tonight's journey of discovery. You shuffle out of your clay-walled shelter into the breath of the morning fog. Everything here is curved. The hills roll like frozen waves, and the paths snake between them, never straight. Even the stone homes are bent, like they were made by someone afraid of right angles. You've come to learn from the masters, the old stone carvers of this cloud-kissed ridge, but no one seems to call themselves that anymore. Instead, they mumble that the stones choose their shape, not the other way around. You thought it was poetic, until one evening you tapped the stone, and it rang like a bell. Your hands are calloused now. The weight of your chisel feels familiar, like an extension of your palm. Still, there's something you haven't grasped yet. Something they all whisper about, then go quiet. A name they won't say, a place they won't show. And always, that spiral. The wind sighs through the valley as you pass the old altar where wild orchids grow. There's no statue, just a smooth basin of stone filled with cold rain. She never needed an image, the elder once said, only a place to echo. You kneel there every morning, not quite praying, just listening. One day, you hear a name rise from the fog, a name not spoken in the village, not in years. You turn, and the mist parts just long enough for you to see a carved stone tucked under a shrub, one that hadn't been there the day before. The spiral is etched deep into its surface, and beneath it, a simple glyph. A human hand reaching up, palm open. You pick it up. It's warm, not just from the sun, it feels like breath. That night, the fire crackles unusually blue. An elder woman, her back bent like a question mark, sits beside you, humming something tuneless. You've touched it, she says without looking up. It's starting. You blink. What's starting? She shrugs, spits into the fire. The remembering, the dreaming, same thing. You can't sleep. The stars above were like dancers. The Southern Cross hangs low. Someone, or something, scratches softly at the outside wall. You open the door. No one is there. Just a single river pebble on the doorstep. A spiral drawn in ash on its surface. The next morning, the fog doesn't lift. The entire village stays wrapped in pale gray, as if the world forgot how to finish waking up. Your tools feel heavier. Your chest feels lighter. You walk in slow, steady loops. In one loop, you find yourself facing a structure you swear wasn't there before. It's a partial wall, crooked, freshly fallen stones scattered like teeth. But what's strange is the lichen on them, years old. You crouch beside the rubble. One of the blocks has a pattern chiseled faintly into its side. Not the usual angles of temple stones, but a graceful inward curve. A spiral again. That night, your dreams pull you underground. You walk blind through tunnels made of air. The walls breathe. You reach a central chamber and find a floor made of bones, fitted perfectly like mosaic tile. You don't scream. You kneel and listen to the humming. When you wake, your hands are dusty, one nail cracked and bleeding. You smell earth, and not just in your bed. There's dirt packed beneath your fingernails. You go to the collapsed wall again, and this time, someone's waiting. An old man with a chisel hanging from his belt and eyes like polished slate. Apprentice ran off, he grunts, pointing to the rubble. Said the stones spoke too loud. You tilt your head. They do that. He grins, no teeth. When they're afraid you've forgotten what they are. You help him lift one of the heavy blocks back into place. It doesn't quite fit. The old man mutters, wrong side of the dream. You're about to ask what that means when he straightens, looks at you hard. You saw it, didn't you? The inner path. You don't answer. He nods anyway. That night, you sit alone with your carving tools spread out before you. You light a single candle. The wax drips slow as honey. On a scrap of cloth, you begin to sketch from memory. Spiral. Stair. Hollow chamber. Arch. You pause. Your hand moves on its own. And just like that, you draw it. The temple that's haunted your dreams. Not just a building, but a being. A living thing made of echo and breath and curves and memory. The spiral that dreams itself into stone. The morning after the flute dream, you don't speak. Not because you're frightened, exactly. More like your words have been tucked somewhere deeper than your mouth, waiting for the right echo to bring them out again. You sit by the smoldering coals of the hearth, absently tracing the spiral pattern in the ashes. Outside, the mist is thinner than usual. The mountains wear their crowns of snow like quiet judges. That's when the grandmother visits. She's the one who never leaves her stone bench. The one who never speaks except to animals. But today, she steps through your doorway, stoops beside your mat, and without a word, pulls a soot-darkened cloth from her robe. You've seen it, she says softly, laying it flat. It's a diagram, not drawn, but burned into fabric by careful branding. You recognize the lines, the curvature, the spiral within a spiral. But this one has additions, small annotations in a fading dialect. Dots and loops around the inner core. You lean closer. It's not a map, she murmurs. It's a memory, etched in heat. You glance at her, not sure what to say. She points to a small symbol near the outer ring. A fire, then to another, just inside. A hand, then one more, almost at the center. A tear. These are the stages, she whispers, of forgetting, and of making again. When she leaves, the cloth remains. That night, you dream again, but this time, it's not you who walks the spiral. It's someone else. A boy, maybe 16, with hands stained in red ochre. He carries a carved stone bowl and sings softly to it as he walks. The bowl glows faintly in response. He looks up suddenly, as meeting yours through the dream. You wake with your heart in your throat. The cloth burns under your fingers. You rush outside, needing air, needing cold. But the moment you step into the open, something draws your eyes to the west wall of your hut. Someone has etched a spiral into the clay, deep, with care. And at the center of the spiral, a tiny drawing barely half the size of your palm. A temple, your temple, but it's upside down. You press your hand to it, and you feel warmth pulsing through the wall, like breath or blood. The next morning, you take the branded cloth and walk across the village to the edge of the fields, where the shepherds prepare the new alpaca pens. There's a man there, leathery and lean, his beard twisted into a braid. He watches the stars even when the sun is up. You hand him the cloth. He smiles. So it's come to you. You frown. What is it? He lays it across his knee. A guide, of sorts, passed on by those who see more with their hands than their eyes. He points to the outermost line of the spiral. This one? That's where the stone carver began. The apprentice? The shepherd nods. He was trying to build a voice. Not just an echo, but an answer. He thought if he carved the spiral right, it would speak back. Did it? The man is silent for a long moment. Then, he stopped asking. You return to your hut and search through the tools left for you. The new chisel, the one carved with the spiral, feels lighter than the others. As you hold it, you hear a faint vibration, almost like the soft buzz of a distant flute. You press it to stone and scratch a line, then another. They curve naturally. You draw and carve for hours, not entirely knowing what you're making, only that it's not coming from you. It's moving through you. That night, the wind howls. Not like a storm, like a voice, like breath over a mouth shaped in stone. You curl up beneath your blankets, but the sound doesn't leave. You whisper to the darkness, I'm listening. And the sound fades. You dream of a fire-lit chamber again. The boy is there, older now, wearing a cloak made of raven feathers. He kneels beside the spiral and places a single object at its heart, a stone carved into the shape of a sleeping eye. When he stands, he mouths something. You wait before you can hear it. The next day, you visit the grandmother again, and this time she's ready for you. She hands you a pouch made of llama hide, tied with a thread of silver hair. Open it only where the sky touches the land, she says. You squint. What does that mean? But she only hums in response. You carry the pouch with you all day. It feels heavier than it should, like it's holding more than physical weight. And then, near dusk, you remember something. The hearth where you found the spiral drawing, it was built into the base of the old temple, wasn't it? And that temple was built at the edge of a ridge the villagers call Kirkamune, where sky holds ground. You climb there slowly, the path overgrown, each step feeling more like a question. The sun has dropped below the peaks, but there's still light enough to see. At the ridge, you open the pouch. Inside are bones. Thin, delicate, carved. Llama bones, but not ordinary. Each one has a symbol etched into it, tiny spirals, stars, lines. One even has your name, your actual name, the one your mother gave you, the one no one here knows. You drop to your knees, breath caught. The air stills. In the distance, a condor circles. Historians still debate whether carved llama bones were used in rituals or encoded messages. Some argue they were tools for measuring wind. Others believe they were offerings meant to return home only when understood. You don't know what they are, but you know they belong to the spiral. You hold them close and whisper, "I remember." And something in the earth answers back. You return to the village under a sky torn open with stars. The pouch of bones cradled to your chest doesn't weigh much, but it feels like carrying a heart. Someone else's, maybe your own. Each carved line on the bone pulses when you look at it too long, like the patterns want to move when you're not watching. Back in your hut, you lay them out on your sleeping mat. 12 bones, each one different. One has holes drilled into it like a flute. One's been scorched at the tip. One is shaped like a crescent moon, but on the wrong side. You arrange them in a circle instinctively. Then you hesitate. You remember the drawing, the spiral. You start moving them inward, forming a coil, bone by bone. When you place the final one, you hear something shift outside, like a footstep or a breath held and released. You go to the doorway. No one. But when you look down, there's a smear of red earth across the threshold. A line drawn by a finger, a direction. You follow it, down past the woven alpaca pins, past the quiet stone basin where the fog likes to linger, past the wall where the apprentice vanished. You follow it into a gully you've never entered before. And there, half buried in moss and vine, is a slab of stone, not carved with images, just a deep spiral groove worn into its face. It fits the bones. You don't know how you know this, but you do. You run back, gather them carefully, and return before dawn. You lay the bones into the spiral groove one at a time, starting from the outside. Each one clicks into place like it belongs. As you set the last bone, your bone, the one with your name, the air around you stills, and the slab begins to hum. Not loud, just a tremor at first, barely more than silence with its fingers curled. And it deepens. The spiral glows faintly blue. You back away slowly. The grass around your feet begins to sway in counter patterns. Not with the wind, with the sound. The slab begins to tilt upward, dust pouring from its sides. It reveals a narrow opening beneath it, just enough for a body to pass through. You drop to your knees and peer inside. Nothing but darkness, but it smells of stone and time. You reach in, touch the floor. It's warm. And there, just inside, is a single candle stub, new. Someone's been here. You descend into the spiral. The passageway is tight, and the sound, low and constant, rattles through your ribs. The air thickens. The walls breathe warmth, carved into spiraling notches. You trace one with your hand. It shivers under your touch, and your fingers come away coated in fine white dust. And suddenly, you're in a chamber, not large, not ornate, just a circular space, spiraled into itself like a fossil. At the center, a pedestal. On it sits a bowl, stone, but impossibly smooth. And inside it, a carving tool. Old, wooden, wrapped in twine, soaked in something dark. You lift it carefully. It's heavier than it looks. Beneath it is a piece of parchment. You unroll it. Your hands tremble. It's the spiral blueprint. But not burned, not drawn. This one is made of hair-thin silver threads, pressed between layers of plant fiber. And the writing? You recognize the glyphs now. They're etched into the walls of the spiral tunnel around you. And one of them, just one, matches the mark you found on the stone that first morning. The open hand. You hear footsteps behind you. You spin. No one. But a voice hums softly. Just a tone. No words. You step into the middle of the chamber, lifting the carving tool, the silver thread spiral still clutched in your other hand. The chamber shudders once. And then the walls begin to ripple. They don't collapse. They move. Subtly. Like lungs. The spiral turns, not physically, but perceptually. The grooves realign in your vision until the whole room seems to be leaning toward one direction, upward. And carved into the curve above the chamber, you see something etched deep in the stone. A staircase. It's upside down. Historians still debate whether upside-down staircases in ancient Andean ruins symbolize journeys to the underworld or metaphorical returns to forgotten truths. But no one has ever found one carved in a sealed chamber only accessible through humming stones and spiral bones. You stare up at the impossible carving, and the spiral inside you stirs. When you exit the chamber, hours later, days, you're no longer sure what time means. The stars overhead look different. Or maybe your eyes have changed. You clutch the carving tool. It hums faintly in your palm. Back in the village, no one is awake. The fog hangs motionless in the air like it's listening. You walk through it, slowly, deliberately. When you reach your hut, you kneel in front of the wall. The clay spiral is still there. But now, around it, new lines have emerged, delicate, etched in the surface like a whisper you're not sure you're meant to hear yet. You press the carving tool to the wall, and you begin. The first line you carve into the wall is shallow. It doesn't need to be deep. The stone knows what you're trying to say. You feel that now. It resists slightly, not like defiance, more like curiosity. You press gently and glide the spiral forward, breathing in time with each curve. There's a rhythm to it, not like music, exactly. More like the sound of someone walking barefoot over packed earth, dragging a feather behind them. You lose track of time again. When you blink, the spiral on the wall has grown. Not wildly, not impossibly, but more than you remember carving. A few extra curves. A smooth tightening inward. A notch you don't recall adding, shaped like a tear. You set the chisel down and step back. The spiral shimmers in the early morning light. Just briefly, then it's gone. You sleep through the day. When you wake, it's night again, and someone has left a small bundle of food at your door, wrapped in maize husk. Inside, roasted potatoes, a slice of guava, a sweet root you don't know the name of but recognize by taste. You eat, grateful and silent. The fog rolls in just past moonrise, and with it comes a sense of motion. Not footsteps this time, more like anticipation. You wrap yourself in your shawl, take the pouch of bones and the chisel, and head east, toward the ridge above the clouds. The villagers call it Rezu, the sun's breath. Few go there anymore. The paths are too narrow, the stones too loose, and some say a voice lives there, not angry but longing. A voice that asks questions no one wants to answer. You climb slowly. Along the way, you pass a rust-colored boulder etched with zigzag patterns. You remember a story the shepherd once told, how the old builders carved lightning into stone to trap it and feed their fires during storm seasons. Historians still debate whether these markings were symbolic lightning traps or simply boundary markers for sacred zones. You don't debate. You place your hand on the stone, and it hums beneath your palm. When you reach the summit, dawn is just beginning to pale the sky. Pink light slides across the mountaintops, and the mist below stirs like a sleeping beast. At the center of the summit is a stone circle. You'd heard of it, whispered by elders, Koyamarka, the Queen's Rest. Not a tomb, not a throne, something between. You step into the circle. 12 stones, like the 12 bones. You crouch and pull them from your pouch, laying them gently, one per stone. The carvings begin to shimmer faintly. You don't know why you say it, but you whisper, "I'm ready." And the wind stops. Everything stops. A long moment passes. Then, the stones begin to vibrate, softly at first, then deep enough that your teeth buzz. The bones glow with threads of light, and from each, a line of energy stretches outward, meeting in the air above you. A spiral forms in the sky. You stare up, breath caught. And from within the spiral, a shape descends. Not a person, not quite a form. A silhouette made of memory, shadow, and gold dust. It hovers, then kneels beside you. You close your eyes. The shape places a hand over your heart. And when you open them again, it's gone. But the spiral remains. You look down at the stones. They've shifted, rearranged themselves into a path. A stair coiled around the mountain's side, descending in a spiral so tight it seems impossible. You follow it. As you move downward, the mountain grows warmer, as though alive. The path takes you through narrow rock corridors, each one lined with tiny alcoves. Some hold bones. Others, candles burned to stumps. And one, just one, holds a flute, carved from obsidian and marked with your glyph. You take it, not as a trophy, as a key. At the base of the spiral path, the mountain opens into a hollow. A wide, round cavity of stone and silence. The sound here is strange. Your footsteps echo wrong. Slower. Delayed. You lift the flute to your lips. You play one note. And the walls respond. They don't echo. They harmonize. A second voice. Then a third. Soon the chamber sings with you. The spiral has remembered. In the center of the hollow, a shape begins to rise, dust swirling upward, then hardening. Stone forming from air. A low dome, gently curving, each layer spinning slightly atop the last. It builds itself, slowly, like breath turning into architecture. You fall to your knees. You know now, this is the spiral temple. Not dreamed, not imagined. Remembered. Your hand drifts to your pouch. The bones have vanished. In their place, a small, polished disc of stone. Smooth, blank. You press it to the center of the rising dome, where a hollow waits. The temple exhales. You lean your forehead to the stone. You are no longer a visitor. You are the builder. You don't remember falling asleep inside the hollow. But when you open your eyes, the temple has grown. The dome now arches above you in smooth, impossible curves, spiraled stone ribs twisting upward like frozen wind. Morning light filters down through narrow slits in the walls, throwing soft ribbons across the floor. Every line, every edge seems to move slightly if you look too long, as if the whole temple is inhaling slowly in its sleep. You rise quietly, barefoot on the stone floor. It's warm beneath your feet. There are no tools lying around, no piles of dust, no rope or scaffolding, no footprints, except your own, faint and solitary. You walk the spiral again. It isn't just architecture, it's memory laid out in stone. Each step a recollection, each curve a question you once asked in silence. You don't know if you built this place in a dream or if it built itself from your dreaming. As you ascend through the inner corridor, you notice something new, markings along the inner walls. Carvings, shallow and neat, etched with gentle reverence. A spiral, of course, but within it, other shapes, feathers, waves, stones with eyes. One carving catches your breath. It's your face, not perfectly, more symbolic. But there you are, hands outstretched, a tool in one, a bone in the other. Around your image, people kneel, not in worship, but in conversation. The spiral at their center pulses outward from your feet. You reach out and touch the carving. It's smooth, recent, as if finished only hours ago. A faint rustle behind you. You turn. Someone stands at the edge of the spiral walkway. A tall figure, draped in dark feathers that ripple slightly in the filtered light. He's older than you, though not by much. His eyes are soft and full of echoes. He bows his head, slowly. "Welcome," he says. "You can't find your voice." "I watch from the sky hollow," he says. You called it back. You tilt your head. "Back from where?" He walks toward you, bare feet soundless on the stone. "From forgetting. From silence. From the time when the spiral was only a line we hadn't looked at long enough." You want to ask who he is, but he's already answering. "I was the apprentice," he says. Your heart stops. "The one who carved the crooked wall." Your breath comes shallow. He gestures to the structure around you. "This was never mine to build. I only saw pieces. But you," he touches a stone rib. You listen longer. You whisper, "I thought you vanished." "I did," he replies. "Into the spiral. And I came out, reshaped." You both sit. The temple makes no sound. It waits. He pulls a pouch from within his feathered robe. You're missing one thing. He pours it into your palm. A single obsidian bead. Smooth, cool, perfect. It shines with faint lines inside, coiled like smoke. You blink. You've seen this before, in dreams. In the old woman's stories. On the parchment etched in silver. You know exactly where it belongs. You rise, walk to the very center of the temple, where the ribs of stone twist inward like petals closing in prayer. At the base, a shallow indentation waits. You kneel and place the bead into it. The stone beneath your knees thrums, and the temple begins to hum. Soft at first, barely audible, then deeper, richer, a resonance that moves not just through your bones, but through your thoughts. It is not a sound you hear. It is one you remember. The apprentice places his hand on your shoulder. "It's awake," he says. The temple's spiral pulses with light, faint blue and green, like colors from the ocean floor. Shadows twist along the walls in soft patterns. The ceiling above you seems to ripple like water. The air tastes like stone and honey. And just like that, you know, this temple was never meant to be a monument. It was meant to be a voice, a memory machine. You sit with the apprentice in the center for hours, maybe longer. Time loops gently. He tells you stories of his early work, how he tried to carve notes into walls, how the stones would only sing when touched by wind or grief. He tells you how he found the passage inside the earth, how he descended one night with only a carving chisel and a broken map. "I wanted to build something no one would understand," he says, "because understanding ruins mystery." You nod. "But now?" He smiles faintly. Now I think mystery survives anyway. As the light shifts in the dome, you feel it again. That subtle movement in the air, as if hundreds of hands once shaped this place and their warmth still lingers in the grooves. You run your fingers along the stone. It hums back. Historians still debate whether spiral motifs in Andean architecture were cosmological, agricultural calendars, or representations of water flow. Some argue they symbolized migration routes. Others call them metaphors for inner journeys. You think they're all right, and all wrong, because now you've stepped inside one. You look at the apprentice. What happens now? He shrugs, feathered shoulders rustling. The temple will teach. Whoever listens. And you, he smiles, you'll carve again. You leave the temple together, descending the path that curves like memory down the mountain spine. Below, the village waits, smaller than you remember. Softer, as if it, too, has shifted in the spiral's breath. Children play at the edge of the field, drawing lines in the dirt. You pass them. One girl lifts her hand, smudged with ash, and shows you a symbol she's drawn. A spiral. You smile. You return to your hut. Inside, the wall has changed again. Now the spiral glows faintly in moonlight. And beneath it, the outline of a door. You touch the carving once more, and begin the next line. You don't carve the next line for days. Not because you're afraid. It's more like reverence. You wake each morning and sit before the wall, running your fingers along the edge of the spiral door, tracing the unfinished curl. You listen, hoping for a whisper, a sign, a soft nudge from stone or wind or memory. It comes eventually, not as a sound, as a smell. Earth, rain, a trace of bitter smoke and crushed mint leaves, just like the scent in the spiral chamber below the sky hollow, when the dome had begun to sing. You rise, chisel in hand, and continue. The stone yields easier this time, almost soft. You carve with slow certainty, a curve here, a notch there, your hands remembering a pattern you never learned but always knew. Around the spiral you add new shapes, a single feather, a cupped hand, a mountain. As you carve, the light in the room begins to change. It reflects strangely against the stone. The spiral glows faintly, then dims, then pulses again, like breath. And with that breath, you hear them. Not voices, not words, but presences. You turn. There are people standing behind you. Not fully there. Half shadow, half light, like reflections on water. One holds a tool. Another, a spiral bone. One you recognize. The apprentice, his feathered silhouette watching, quiet and calm. You close your eyes. They don't vanish. Instead, they hum, low and long, in a tone that makes your ribs tremble slightly. And your hand, your carving hand, continues to move. The spiral expands. The symbols arrange themselves naturally. A ring of stars, a broken flute, a temple cradled in a hand. Then your chisel slips. Just slightly. The line cuts too deep. You stop, breath frozen. The hum pauses. You stare at the mistake, a sharp divot breaking the curve. It's tiny, barely noticeable. But to you it's obvious. Wrong. A break in the flow. You step back, shaking your head. I ruined it, you whisper. The hum resumes. Softer now. You look again. The shadows haven't moved. The apprentice still stands with the others, looking not at the air, but at you. The mistake begins to glow, just faintly, and you realize it doesn't ruin the spiral. It changes it. You kneel. You touch the groove. And in that moment, the wall shifts. Not physically, but your understanding of it does. What you thought was a mistake is a key. The deeper cut changes how the next curve turns, how the light will move when it strikes the stone at a certain angle. The spiral needed imperfection to grow. You keep carving. Outside, the wind carries voices across the village. Someone is singing in Quechua, old and lilting, a lullaby that rides the fog like a boat on water. A child knocks on your door. You open it. She stands barefoot, holding a lump of clay. Can you make the spiral for me? She asks. You nod. She hands you the clay, and as you press your thumb into it, slowly shaping the spiral, you feel the temple again, the echo of its breath, its light, its hum. Thank you, the girl says and leaves. You hold the clay spiral in your palm. It's rough, simple, but it fits perfectly inside your hand. That night, your dreams are filled with stone again, but this time, it's not the temple. It's the mountain beneath it. You move through endless tunnels lined with glyphs and sleeping bones. You see carvings of people you've never met, and yet somehow remember. You reach a massive gate etched with a spiral so large it takes you hours to walk its length. At its center, a message. All temples are built from silence first. You wake to the sound of rain. It's soft, like someone turning pages in another room. You step outside. The village is different. Subtle things. The paths are cleaner. The air sharper. The clouds, lower somehow, kissing the tops of the old stones. You notice children tracing spirals and puddles with sticks, humming gently as they do. They felt it too. You visit the site of the old broken wall, the one where the apprentice once carved his first music. And now, you see it clearly. The crooked stones aren't a mistake. They're notes. Each curve is a tone. Each angle, a rest. You tap one with your knuckle and feel it vibrate in your arm. You tap another, and the first stone answers. You sit down and close your eyes. And you begin to play the wall. Historians still debate whether resonant architecture in pre-Columbian cultures was intentional or coincidental, the alignment of acoustics and material properties by chance. Some claim it's a modern fantasy imposed on ancient ruins. Others suggest it's proof of an engineering wisdom we've yet to rediscover. You know what it is, because now the whole valley is singing with you. Later that evening, you return to the spiral wall in your hut. The light has changed again, softer, golden, like afternoon sun trapped and released hours later. The door in the spiral now shimmers as if it wants to open. But it's not time yet. You sit cross-legged before it, and you wait. The village goes quiet. The rain becomes mist. Somewhere, the apprentice hums the same note you heard in the dream. And in the stone beneath you, the temple breathes. You don't open the spiral door. Not yet. There's something unfinished in your bones, a gentle restlessness that tugs at your ankles as you sleep. That night, the dreams return, but not in the chamber of stone, not in the hollow beneath the temple. This time, you are walking the mountain as it was before memory. No fog, no trails, just raw stone and sky. You walk barefoot over obsidian ridges. You climb trees that no longer grow in this altitude. You drink from streams that hum with whispers. And in the distance, a temple, not spiraled, but jagged. Angry, afraid, it collapses as you approach. You wake with a strange taste in your mouth, smoke and ash, and something bitter. The carving tool lies beside your bed, trembling gently as if it had just been used. You sit up. Someone is outside your hut. No knocking, no greeting, just silence. You step out and find a ring of feathers laid in the earth. 12, one from each direction. They form a perfect circle, and in the center, the spiral bead. The apprentice's bead. You kneel beside it, and you realize it's time for the ceremony. You don't know the words. No one does. But the spiral does. And that's enough. You climb again to the summit, this time with the bead clenched in your palm and a satchel of stones hanging from your shoulder, each one carved with a memory you thought you'd forgotten. A laugh. A sound of rushing water. A hand on your shoulder. A name you haven't said aloud in years. At the summit, the wind has stopped. Not quiet. Stopped. As though the air is listening. You step into the stone circle of Coyamarca again. The bones are gone now. Only the spiral lines carved into the summit remain. You sit in the center and place the bead at your feet. Then, without knowing why, you begin to hum. It's not music. It's not melody. It's breath with shape. Your voice spirals out from your chest into the morning air. You hum a spiral into existence. And the stones answer. One by one, they begin to glow. Pale light flows through their carvings, each one waking from sleep. Symbols emerge on their surfaces, some familiar, others new. A hand, a bird, a wound. You place the carved stones from your satchel into the spaces between. The spiral tightens. And then, you close your eyes. From behind your lids, a shape takes form. The apprentice stands before you, arms crossed, watching. Beside him, the grandmother hums her quiet tune. Behind them, hundreds, thousands. All those who carved and dreamed before. Their faces shimmer and shift, like water in sunlight. You speak, but not with your mouth. Your mind offers them the question that has haunted you since the beginning. What was the spiral for? They answer together. To remember what was never written. The light intensifies. The bead in front of you splits, not violently, but like an egg cracking open. Inside, a single droplet of blue light floats upward. You open your eyes. It hangs there, spinning, waiting. You rise and follow it. It drifts down the spiral path along the mountain's curve, not rushed, not leading, just moving as though remembering the way. You descend after it, the light always just ahead, casting long, soft shadows behind you. It leads you not to the temple, not to your hut, but to a cave you've never seen before. Small, hidden beneath a curtain of moss and water. You push inside. The cave smells of wet clay and old breath. You hold your hands out, feeling your way by touch. Then sudden warmth. The bead light settles into a groove in the wall, and a door opens. Not like stone parting, like memory unlocking. Inside is a chamber. Familiar. The floor is spiral-shaped, but broken, as if it had been interrupted by fire or fear. Charred remains at the edges. Symbols half burned into the stone. You crouch and run your hand over the floor. The beadlight pulses once, then settles. You understand. This was the original spiral. The first attempt. The apprentice's true beginning. He had built it here, in secret, beneath the mountain, carving each stone by hand, hoping it would speak back. But it had collapsed. Something had gone wrong. The breath hadn't come, and so he had vanished, not from the world, but into it, into the mountain, into the memory. You place your hand on the broken stone, and you whisper, "I hear you now." The chamber exhales. Historians still debate whether ritual failure in ancient architecture was followed by erasure or enshrinement. Some ruins show signs of intentional destruction, while others were buried and marked for future generations. A debate of forgetting versus forgiving. This place, though, this cave was both. You step back out into the world. The bead is gone. The cave remains. You descend back into the village, no longer humming, but listening. Listening for spirals and footsteps. And laughter. In the way birds circle above the rooftops before landing. That evening, you return to the spiral wall in your hut. The door is open. Not physically, but your breath catches. Because now you know. What you carved was a question. And the temple, the spiral, the apprentice, the bones, they were all parts of the answer. You press your palm to the open door. It doesn't open outward. It opens inward. And you walk through. Inside the spiral door, there is no tunnel. There is no chamber. No hidden staircase. No echo of feet on stone. There is light. It envelopes you the moment you step through, soft and fluid, like walking into a warm river made of breath and silence. The air is thick with memory, not smell, not specific or tangible, but the kind that tightens your chest and makes your eyes wet without knowing why. You move without walking. You float inward. And there, around you, forms begin to shape themselves. Not walls, not rooms, but moments. Glimpses. The spiral remembers everything you forgot. There's your childhood home, not as it was, but as you imagined it while lying awake in bed as a child. The walls made of carved stone, the roof a dome of stars. There's the day you first held a chisel, except the tool is made of light, and your hand is still too small to grip it properly. Someone laughs gently. Someone you can't quite see. You reach out, and the image melts. Now you're standing in the spiral temple again, but this time it's unfinished. People move around you, ghost-like. Not spirits, but stories. Architects from every century. Builders without names. A woman with sapphire rings on each finger draws diagrams in the air. A young boy sings blueprints into stone. A blind elder listens to the wind and smiles knowingly. They pass by you, nodding. One stops and gently places a hand over your chest. "Here," he whispers. The spiral never needed stone. You blink. And now the temple is complete again, but different. It's taller. Brighter. The ribs of the dome twist inward at angles you've never seen before, impossible curves that suggest new dimensions. You walk its floor in silence, your steps aligning with soft pulses in the walls, thump, 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 like a heartbeat larger than the mountain. At the center of the dome is a pool, still water. You kneel beside it. Your reflection stares back, but not as you are. As you were, as you are, and as you will be. 3 versions of yourself, sharing a single breath. The reflection smiles, and you fall into it. The pool is warm, deeper than it appears. You sink slowly, not struggling, not afraid. Around you, scenes from forgotten architecture swirl, temples beneath oceans, bridges carved across chasms by vines, shrines hidden inside volcanoes. One image lingers. A village shaped like a spiral. Each home curved. Each path looping inward. At the center, a platform. Empty now. Waiting. You surface with a gasp. But you're not in the pool anymore. You're in the real temple, the one you walked into weeks ago. The spiral temple in the Andes. Your body is lying against the stone floor, your carving tool beside you, and the sun has just begun to rise again. You sit up slowly. Nothing has changed. And everything has. You hear footsteps approaching. The apprentice enters the dome quietly, carrying a bundle wrapped in cloth. He kneels beside you. You made it back, he says simply. You nod, still unsure whether to speak. He unwraps the bundle. Inside, a set of bones. Spiral carved. Familiar. They came to me last night, he explains. Said they belonged here. You take them one by one, laying them gently in a spiral around you. As you do, the temple begins to resonate again, soft vibrations rising through the floor. But this time, the spiral does not lead inward. It leads outward. You rise. You and the apprentice walk slowly to the temple's entrance. The sun has broken free of the clouds, spilling gold across the valley. Below, the village shimmers, dew and fog curling through its crooked paths. But something's different. The huts. They've changed. Their walls curve now. Their roofs dip in gentle spirals. The children's drawings have become more intricate. You see a girl etching glyphs into the clay with a serious look on her face. You descend into the village. People emerge from their homes, smiling, humming. Not at you, but to the air, to each other. As if some thread is pulled tight around them all and now gently unravels into music. You realize the spiral has spread. Not as a building. As a rhythm. As a way of being. That evening, someone brings you a clay tablet. On it is a map, not of geography, but of memory. Symbols of places you haven't been yet. Shrines. Forgotten domes. Forest temples. You run your finger along the path. It spirals. That night, you sit before the fire, the apprentice beside you, both of you quiet. The flames rise in slow curls, shadows dancing like the echoes of builders long gone. You ask him, did you ever stop dreaming of it? He shakes his head. Not once, he says. You smile, leaning back against the warm stone wall of your hut. Your hand rests on the carving tool. The spiral door, now still, glows faintly, blue, and steady. Historians still debate whether the spiral temple in the Andes was real. Some claim it's a folk invention. Others argue it was a metaphor for an ancient form of oral engineering. A few even say it was a physical place that appears only when remembered properly. But for those who listen to the stones long enough, who breathe into the silence without asking for answers, it still builds itself. The years pass quietly. The spiral doesn't vanish. It doesn't crumble or weather. It lives subtle as breath, steady as roots. The temple on the ridge becomes a place people drift toward, not out of pilgrimage or awe, but out of a quiet pull, like the scent of something half-remembered from childhood. They come with questions they don't know how to phrase, and leave with stories they can't quite explain. You're no longer the outsider. You're the listener. You spend your days walking between the carved stones of the upper terraces, fingers brushing moss and memory alike. Sometimes you find new spirals scratched lightly into stone, left by visitors who say they felt the urge. Some children carve with sticks. Others hum their own names into the wind and laugh when it hums back. You never tell them they're right. You never tell them they're wrong. You just smile and offer them a round stone to hold, warm from the sun, carved with a spiral so faint it only reveals itself in shade. One morning, the apprentice, older now, silver in his beard, sits beside you near the temple steps. He says nothing at first, simply watching the fog drift across the far valley like a slow thought. Finally, he says, do you ever wonder if it was meant to end? You shake your head gently. The spiral never ends. It just deepens. He nods. Later, he's gone again, off to another mountain, another echo. He always returns. Or maybe it's someone else wearing a shape. You stopped needing certainty long ago. People ask questions, now and then. Who built it? Why a spiral? What's inside? You answer the same way every time, come. Listen. They follow. They sit. They listen. Sometimes they cry. Sometimes they laugh. Sometimes they say nothing and leave a spiral carved into a pebble, tucked beneath the temple's ribbed stone. And every few seasons, the temple grows. You don't know how. A new curve appears where none had been. A wall hums louder. The dome shivers on moonless nights, rearranging its own echoes. The wind sings harmonies no one taught it. The builders are still building. One night, you dream again. You're in the cave where the apprentice's spiral first broke. But now, the cracks are mended. Light pulses from beneath the stone, slow and deep. The glyphs on the wall shift while you watch. They form a new word. You wake, and before even rising from your mat, you whisper the word aloud. Remember. You carve it into the doorframe of your hut, just beneath the spiral. The next morning, someone's left a bundle at your door. Inside, a polished piece of obsidian carved into the shape of an ear. You smile. You place it at the center of the temple's spiral floor. The stone glows briefly, and the dome hums in thanks. Later that year, two children climb the mountain and find you carving another spiral, not into stone, but into soft clay. They watch without speaking. When you're finished, you hand it to them. This one's not mine, you say. Whose is it? One asks. You shrug. Yours, maybe. They don't ask why. They just press it between their palms and leave, running back down the path with clay and wonder in their hands. Historians still debate whether the spiral temple was ever real, whether builders could have shaped stone with sound, whether dreams and blueprints ever truly mingled. Some say the whole legend began with a vanished apprentice who left no records, only a groove in the hillside and a melody no one could source. But the villagers say something else. They say you can still hear it at night, when the fog settles low and the air is thick with stories. They say the spiral breathes, that it remembers everyone who ever carved a line with care, that it's still growing, waiting, listening. The night has grown quiet now. The wind has softened to a hush, brushing gently through the valley like a mother's hand smoothing the hair of a sleeping child. Above the temple, stars begin to blink open, slow and sure, as if they too have been listening all along. You lie back beneath the sky, arms folded behind your head, the spiral temple silhouetted against the fading blue. It no longer feels like a mystery to be solved. It feels like a heartbeat you've come to know, steady, ancient, familiar. And somewhere, deep beneath the stone, the spiral still moves. Not outward, not upward, but deeper, deeper into memory, deeper into silence. You let yourself breathe with it. No need to speak. No need to reach. You've already stepped into the spiral. You've already left something of yourself behind, curved into the walls, tucked inside the hum of the temple's breath. Let that be enough. Let the temple carry it now. Your eyes begin to close. The wind circles once, then quiets completely. The last sound you hear is a faint chime, stone speaking softly to stone. The spiral dreams on. And so do you.